Hello everybody, welcome to SA Sociology Hub. My name is Thandeka and I. I am the host of SA Sociology Hub. I have a master's degree in sociology and I'm currently working as a UX researcher. So SA Sociology Hub is where we try to understand our society better. But in today's episode, I will be laying the last part of the foundation, which is how sociologists conduct research, right? Before we talk about the social issues and everything else that impacts our society. I hope you will enjoy. In the video where we introduced sociology or defined sociology, we spoke about the fact that sociology is a scientific study of the human society, the social groups and individuals and how these individuals interact with each other, right? So there's a part there that's the scientific part, meaning I can't just wake up tomorrow and say I'm studying society and then I just go around. And I mean, even if I did, how am I going to study the entire South Africa, like the entire country alone? I can't do that. And so I need to follow methods that will allow for me to find the group, study, and come back, maybe for example, and try and generalize the findings, right? So yes, we did mention that sociology is a scientific study, and so here I'll be talking about the different methods that we follow to study our society, right? So and then going back to our previous video, please check it out, that focuses on macro versus micro sociology. I tried to distinguish between two worlds, like macro sociology and the theories that guide macro sociology, and then micro sociology and the theories that guide micro sociology. And we said the functionalists and conflict theory focuses on the large groups of society. They study social structures and factors that are outside of the individual. But then we have the theory of interactionism. Yes, the theory of intersectionism, which studies human behavior and the reason why people do certain things or how they interpret their overall interactions, right? So quantitative research approach is a research approach that looks into, it's numerical, it studies large, we want to quantify certain factors, we want to find trends and relationships between things, right, in the society. So for example, an example would be, what are the factors that affect factors contributing to high unemployment or unemployment in South Africa? That's just an example, right? But then, and that is the question, right? To say, what are the factors that affect high unemployment in South Africa? So we can't just go around asking you, why are you employed? Why are you, we can't do that. So we need to firstly have a question. And the question is, what are the factors contributing to unemployment in South Africa, right? But then after that, we need to make sure that we know how we're going to go about studying these factors. And it means we are looking into macro sociology, right? So I can't go around and do it and study society, like study everyone. So now I need a method that will allow for me to study the society and to be able to generalize. So firstly, who are you looking into? If, for example, you're just looking at unemployment in South Africa or factors that affect unemployment in South Africa, it means you have to create a problem statement. You're asking and find a problem, like to identify what exactly you're trying to research. And then you have to have your aims and objectives with this question. What are you trying to get to? What answer do you want to get? And then you will then read on what has been said about this topic of unemployment, maybe not in South Africa, but unemployment generally, right? So you read on what other researchers have found around the world, and then bring it back to your context, and then identify the gap. And from what you've read, you can now form a hypothesis. So a hypothesis is, it tells you whether, so it's not a definite thing, right? This is like, okay, so my hypothesis is that maybe gender affects is one factor that affects unemployment in South Africa. You haven't studied that, or maybe some of the research tells you that gender does affect unemployment, but now you're assuming that, okay, gender could be a possibility, right? So your hypothesis needs to have I normally try and remember it with a 1 and a 0. So your hypothesis needs to have a 1. Gender is a contributing factor to high unemployment rate. And then a 0 would be, there is no, I just forgot how to put it, but gender does not affect high unemployment rate, right? So there is no correlation between gender and high unemployment rate in South Africa. So that's what your hypothesis would be, right? But from your hypothesis, and your hypothesis is not just based on random things. For example, you would have read about the factors that affect unemployment in other areas, and then you are bringing it down to your country. And then from there, you then try to form questions. Maybe you want to find out the rate, is gender affected, is high unemployment affected by race? Is it affected by gender? Is there any correlation between what a student studies and is there a skills mismatch? For example, those are part of the questions that will come up in your research, right? But then from there, you read again, you go and read more to make sure that what you're going to say or your arguments are not just based on, okay, this one person said this and then that's it, right? You read and read. And then what is your methodology? So how are you going to collect your data? So a methodology outlines how you're going to collect your data. And so firstly, this is where quantitative and qualitative research comes in. So, okay, from your research question determines what approach you will follow. So so I'm now looking at factors that contribute to unemployment, right? So it means I will have to look at, so I'm answering what and the factors, right? So it means I have to go follow a quantitative research methodology, and I want to generalize. So the quantitative research approach allows you to generalize, and this means that you will look at, and there are different ways to find a sample or a sample size, right? So for example, you could do random sampling, meaning you could just go around, maybe go to a mall or go somewhere and ask, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is the research, are you willing to participate in this research? And if someone wants to participate, they'll say yes. If not, they won't. But you will be speaking to, okay, who am I talking to? The unemployed. And going back to what you've read about and your hypothesis, hey, what is your name? What is your gender? How old are you? What is your level of education? And are you unemployed? Where are you seeking work? What did you study? Did you study anything after grade 12? Or maybe, so you form questions that will give you a yes or no or specific answers. That's one thing about quantitative. So it allows your participant to just choose the answers. So you already, based on what you've read, there are options that a participant can choose from, right? So what is your age? What do you think? Maybe you can even ask them, the participants, why do you think you're unemployed? I'm unemployed because I'm unemployed because, and then, or you could even go and ask the people that hire graduates to say, what is the reason graduates are unemployed in South Africa, and they could answer, maybe it can be a 10 to 15 minute survey. So you even choose the kind of data collection method that you will employ, right? To say, are you going to take a survey? Is it going to be a questionnaire? How are you going to, and the surveys and questionnaires are the most dominant in the quantitative research approach. So then a person will answer, click yes, click no, and then even if there's a free text where a person can write maybe their name or age, or maybe will ask, what is the reason, why do you think people are unemployed? That will be a very short answer compared to the quantitative, which we will dive deeper into right now. So then once you've formed what approach you're going to go about, you are going to take to study the factors that affect unemployment, and which method, how you're going to get the people, are you going to call a person, are you going to check by cluster, and how you're going to calculate. So how the approach that you're going to get your people tells you the number of people, for example, that you can take on. So your sample size, that is what we call a sample size. And there is a way to calculate a sample size. If you'd like for me to explain sample size and how people calculate sample size, even now, you don't even need to know the calculation. You can just, there are tools, online tools that help you to calculate your sample size, so we can look into that as well. So yeah, sample size. And then, so a sample size is a representative of the population. So the population is like, how many people in total do you have, and then of these people, how many, to make sure that your sample is representative. For example, if you have 80% blacks, you want to make sure that in your sample size there is 80% blacks. And this is not simple random sampling. So there's also a sampling method called a simple random sampling. There's the stratified sampling method, where people are put into strata according to certain characteristics in society. I won't dive deeper into those boring stuff, right? I just wanted you to know that there's an approach that we follow. But if you're interested in knowing more, then I think you can just comment in the comment section below, and then I will go into it. Want to dive deeper into understanding why is this the case?